Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto thee, unto us, and to all your beloved children everywhere. O dearly beloved, make it so. So welcome everyone to our Wednesday evening reading and discussion of the book Realizing God, a collection of talks given by Swami Prabhavananda over several decades. It's a remarkable book, one full of wisdom, and the Swami's absolute assurance of our spiritual realization, realizing God, self-realization, God realization, all the same thing. And he is absolutely convinced that if we yield to the invitation to move in that direction by the Divine Being in the form of an avatar, an incarnation, that our salvation, our redemption, our liberation, our self-realization is assured. So that's the kind of book we're reading. And please, when you have something to say and want to contribute to the conversation, we very much want to hear from you. Whatever comment you might want to make from your own wisdom or experience, whatever concern you might have, whatever question arises because of what's read or said, please do be responsive. Anything at all before we begin that wants to be discussed?
Just have a happy new year.
Happy New Year to all of
You
you.
too.
New year.
May we all have a happy new year. May we all be well and in bright spirits. So, Irma, please read on.
Your brother Shankara. Good evening and namaste, everyone. We are on page 132 on the top of the first paragraph, but I'm going to connect better if I read from 131, the last paragraph, few lines, 8 lines, 9 lines. So I will start from 131 in the book, last paragraph. A spiritual aspirant tries to gain self-control, but there is lingering desire, so it is necessary to keep away from all kinds of temptations. But the illumined soul is free from all desires. Desires may arise for the moment, but they do not disturb. They have become completely absorbed. So the teaching is think and think of God, learn to love Him, keep recollectedness of Him, and at long last be absorbed in Him, and you become a saint in this very life. It is the ideal and purpose of human life to become a living saint. But what is a saint? What is one who has attained freedom from all bondages of life and death? How is it possible for every one of us to attain that state of saintliness? A misunderstanding which exists all over the world, in India as well as in the West, is that in order to be a saint, one must perform miracles. Of course, we know that Jesus performed certain miracles and the multitudes followed him. Then what happened? The multitudes see the signs and miracles, but they are not ready to follow the teachings. One time, Jesus came back to a village and saw a man rolling in the mud. Jesus said, "What are you doing there?" The man said, "Master, I was a leper and you healed me. What else am I to do?" Then he saw a man chasing a girl and he said, "What are you doing?" And the man said, "Master, I was blind and you gave me eyes. What am I to do?" Sri Ramakrishna said, "Yes, one can have these powers. And suppose I get the power of healing, what will happen? This place will be a hospital. Then how can spiritual life be given and taught? Is there no way to judge? Yes. In the presence of the holy, your mind goes naturally Godward. If you are a spiritual aspirant who finds it difficult to pray and to meditate upon God, you find it becomes easier to think of God in holy company. That is one sign. Another sign is that a holy person does not hate any so-called sinner. You see this in so many examples. Jesus, Buddha, Ramakrishna. Max Miller, who wrote about the life and teachings of Ramakrishna, met a Brahmo devotee from India who had known Ramakrishna. Max Muller asked what he thought of him. The Brahmo devotee replied, "Well, he was a good man, but in the end, he got spoiled." What happened? Well, he became friends with alcoholics and even a prostitute. Then Max Muller jumped up and said, "Now I know he was a man of God. He was a divine incarnation. Now I know." A friend of mine who was very devoted to Maharaj, but who did not join the monastery, felt he had made a very grave mistake. He was attracted to Maharaj, but had a guilty conscience. So he would come stealthily when he knew Maharaj would be resting. He would do certain small things and go away. One day Maharaj waited for him and caught him. "Now don't run away, come here." Then he asked, "Have you seen a buffalo?" "Yes." "Have you seen how big its horns are?" "Yes." "Do they feel anything?" "No." "Well, I have bigger horns than a buffalo. I don't mind any flies or mosquitoes. I can throw them out any moment." You see, to him, there is no sinner. This I have seen in my life. And we hear stories about the lives of these great ones. Jesus and Mary Magdalene and Buddha. Buddha, died eating some pork at the house of a prostitute. He refused to go to a rich man's house, but went to the poor prostitute instead. And then, of course, Sri Ramakrishna. You know how Girish Chandra Ghosh was completely transformed. He was an alcoholic and did all kinds of mischief, so-called sin, but he was completely transformed. I met him when he was a great saint. It so happened that he had been associated with a prostitute, and one of the girls told him she would like to see Ramakrishna when he was sick. At that time, no stranger was allowed to visit Ramakrishna. And so Girish Ghosh told his brother to take the girl and dress her as an English boy. In the evening, he took her upstairs and took off the disguise. Sri Ramakrishna had a good laugh over it and then gave her a touch which transformed her whole life. Some prostitutes came to my master, and through his grace, those women were completely transformed. I have met them. You see, that is the greatest miracle that the great saints perform, transforming people's lives.
Now,
I can stop here. Any comments?
if you want to know more about these incidents, about these fallen people, these people who were ordinarily thought of as sinners, these prostitutes and so on, you can find it in Swami Sardananda's book. It's been translated twice, once as the Great Master, and again by Swami Chaitananda, Sri Ramakrishna, His Divine Blame. And so if you want to know more about these transformative powers and how these people could associate with people who would ordinarily be a distraction, then you can read it in that book, Sardananda's book. There's a great deal more detail about these kinds of incidents, particularly this last one about Raja Maharaj and the fact that these women came to him. It was considered quite scandalous. And there were people in the order, trustees and so, who wished that he would not do it. But he just said, no, let them come. So this is the great gift that they want to give us, each of these beings, whether it be Sri Ramakrishna, Jesus, Buddha, Raja Maharaj. They extend their hand and say, here, take my hand. I'll pull you through to where you do not have to live more lifetimes. You can realize your true, full spiritual potential and attain realization and liberation in this lifetime. That's their assurance and their promise. Anything else from anyone? All right, dear, please read on.
Okay. In this country, it is understood that somebody becomes a saint after he is dead and gone. But our ideal is to become saints while living on earth. Shankara said, there's no longer any identification of the Atman with its coverings. In other words, he has realized the Atman, the self, as one with Brahman. All sense of duality is obliterated. There is pure, unified consciousness. The man who is well established in this consciousness is said to be illumined. A man is said to be free even in this life when he is established in illumination. His bliss is unending. He almost forgets the world of appearances. Even though his mind is dissolved in Brahman, he is fully awake, free from the ignorance of waking life. He is fully conscious, but free from any craving. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. For him, the sorrows of this world are over. Though he possesses a finite body, he remains united with the infinite. His heart knows no anxiety. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. Though he lives in the body, it seems merely like a shadow following him. He is no longer troubled by the thought of I and mine. Such are the characteristics of a man who is free even in this life. We do not mean, yes.
To read.
You want me to repeat this, Brother Shankara?
No. If you wish to read about such beings, Swami Yogeshananda wrote a book called Six Open Windows. And in that book, he talks about his association with and service to these six illumined souls. And so if you want to know what it is like to actually live in the company of these beings, you can read Six Open Windows by Swami Yogeshananda. It's easily accessible. You just can buy it online.
It's called Six Open Windows, Brother Shankara? Six Open Windows. Okay.
Yeah, I read that book while I was staying in Trabuco with Yogeshananda. He told me to go to their library and read it. It's at their library.
It's a great book, isn't it?
Yeah, I got a lot more insight into Swami Prabhavananda than I'd had before.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, well, Yogeshananda was, if you wanted to bring him to tears, it was said, just get him to talk about Swami Prabhavananda. He would openly weep. So much had the Swami given him. So that book is there. And there's another book that can give you insights into what it means to be a living saint, an illumined soul. And that is the book Love Poems from God.
Yes.
By Daniel Ladinsky.
Oh, that's definitely
a great book.
It is.
It's the testimony of 12 saints about, well, it's their testimony and in the form of poetry. So I recommend those two books highly to anyone who wants to get some sense of what it is to be a saint and living as Swami Prabhavananda just wrote. Not having to wait until another lifetime or even until the end of this lifetime and passing into the next. You can be illumined and saintly here and now. Anything else from anyone?
Just a quick note that it's 6 lighted windows, not open.
Oh, 6 lighted windows.
Yeah.
Thank you, dear. 6 lighted windows.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you, Cindy.
All right, dear, please read on.
Okay. We do not merely read about saints in books, but there are living souls who are that. The main point is that every one of us must try to achieve this state. You may ask why we don't see many people like that. And the answer is very simple. How many struggle? In fact, how many know that the purpose of life is to realize God? I have heard many ministers say that practical religion is to love thy neighbor, to do good. Of course, I do not object to doing good. But what is the objective? To see the self in your neighbor, to see the one Atman in your neighbor. How can you see that until you learn to see the Atman within yourself? See God within yourself and see God in every being. That is the ideal.
And that please read that again, because
Sure.
that is the ideal. That is the open secret. You must do what is necessary to see the living divinity within yourself, and then you see it everywhere. So please read.
I sure will. We do not merely read about saints in books, but there are living souls who are that. The main point is that every one of us must try to achieve this state. You may ask why we don't see many people like that. And the answer is very simple. How many struggle? In fact, how many know that the purpose of life is to realize God? I have heard many ministers say that practical religion is to love thy neighbor, to do good. Of course, I do not object to doing good, but what is the objective? To see the self in your neighbor, to see the one Atman in your neighbor. How can you see that until you learn to see the Atman within yourself? See God within yourself and see God in every being. That is the ideal. And that's the end of this topic of saints and miracles, Brother Shankara.
Okay.
Any comment?
I'd like to share something I read this morning, and it just touched me profoundly.
We lost you. Lynette lost connection. She'll come back. Yeah.
Yeah, Lynette, we lost your vote. We lost your,
We completely lost her, and
Lost.
I think she's going to connect back, hopefully.
yeah, let's give her a moment.
Yes, that happens every now and then with her connection, Brother Shankara. Because we're in the same group on Thursday nights. Let's see if she comes back.
Well, apparently she's not gonna be able to, so.
Trying, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it may take some time, then she comes back. The next topic is cast out fear. That is our topic. You want me to go ahead and start reading?
Please, cast out. that's
Cast
the
out
next-
fear.
the
Yes,
next- The next, this is
sure.
the next of the Swami's lectures that have
Yes.
been gathered together.
The world in which we live is a world of incessant fear and constant worry. We are beset with fear at every step, and worries follow us constantly. If we overcome one difficulty, there is another. Thus it goes. We are afraid to face life itself for its uncertainties, and we are afraid to die. If we have a job, we are afraid of losing it. If we have no job, we are afraid that we might not get one. If we have economic security today, we are afraid that we might lose it tomorrow. If we don't have it, we are afraid that we may not get it. The world by its very nature is ever changing. The Sanskrit word for world is jagat, which means that which changes and passes. There's nothing in this world that we can hold on to. As Buddha once pointed out, can we attempt to make the clouds stay? It is the nature of the river to flow. It is the nature of this world to flow. There are always uncertainties, and with them come fear in every life. There she is. She's back, Brother Shankara. Maybe we should. Lynette, go ahead. You want to?
Let's hear what touched you.
Sorry, that was suspenseful, wasn't it?
That's okay.
I read it this morning. This lady, she was 93. I read it in the obits in the paper. She was delivering some cookies to her new neighbor, and she slipped and fell.
Oh,
And she was in the hospital, and she passed away doing her hip surgery. And I thought,
no.
oh my goodness, you just never know how you're going to go out in this world. But the
Yes.
idea that she was bringing these cookies over to her new neighbor, what a sweetheart, huh?
What a sweetheart, and
What a sweet service.
love thy neighbor as thyself.
Really, literally. Yeah.
She obviously took that quite to heart
Terrible.
and was being sweet and loving to her neighbor. And so we can say that it was actually a gift
Mhm.
that she slipped and fell, and that was, so she came to a quick and relatively painless end.
Right.
So good for her.
Good for her. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It was such a sweet story.
Yes,
Thank you for waiting to hear my story.
Sure.
well, thank you for bringing it.
I'm glad you're back.
And Godspeed to this lady. Godspeed. May she be propelled on into the most wonderful things after she's crossed the Rainbow Bridge.
Mhm. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from anyone while we're paused? All right.
Yeah.
Very good.
We find the rise and fall of nations and empires. In individual lives, we find rise and fall. We seek beauty, health, happiness, position, economic security, intellect, advancement. We find them, but how long can we hold on to them? They pass away. Very true. I am talking like a great pessimist because I don't see anything in life that we can hold on to as something of eternal value. But then, as I shall point out, religion makes us the greatest of optimists. In order that we attain that optimism with certitude, we have to be pessimistic with regard to what we see and experience only with our senses. In short, whether we want to call ourselves pessimists or optimists, this is the experience of everyone. We live in fear. There is no question about that. It's a fact we have to face. The ostrich in the fable may hide its head in the sand when it faces danger, but that does not free it from danger. We may hide ourselves, drink and get intoxicated to forget the worries of the world, but we have to wake up and face our situations. Some religions play on our fears to make us fear God. We are afraid not only of this life and death, but we are afraid of the next life. We are not only afraid of the future while we are living here, but afraid of what will happen to us when we die. Religion may play on our fears, but if we go to the source of every religion, we shall find out differently. If you read the Upanishads, there is one note running throughout: become fearless. Upon what grounds can we be fearless is the question. The Upanishads are very clear upon that point. Knowing the bliss of God, one casts out all fear. The mark of genuine religion is freedom from fear. It's not a question of bravado, but of grounding ourselves upon something where we positively become fearless, knowing there is no danger, no worry, no troubles. That's what religion seeks to give us. The mark of spiritual life is that fearlessness. Any comments, Brother Shankara? Can I?
Or just that this is also
Mhm,
the message of the Gita.
mhm.
Of course, the Gita is said to be the cream of the Upanishads. And as Vivekananda points out over and over, the message of the Gita is fearlessness. Boy, fearlessness. And so be fearless, go ahead with your spiritual practices, and your success is assured. And Krishna promises that over and over in the Gita. And Sri Ramakrishna also, Chaitanya also, these great souls that come to offer us liberation, moksha, they all promise us. Just make the effort, struggle a little, and you will succeed. Simply because there is all that power behind and within you that will overwhelm your fears and that which you struggle against. It won't happen all at once, and it will not happen always easily, but it will happen. This is the promise of the Upanishads. It's the promise of the Gita. It's the promise of Sri Chaitanya. Chant the name of the Lord and his glory unceasingly, that the mirror of the heart may be wiped clean and quenched that mighty forest fire, worldly lust, raging furiously within. So this is the opening to Chaitanya's prayer. Sri Ramakrishna says, take your virtue, take your vice, give me pure love for thee. And he goes through a number of things of the opposites and says, don't give me high life, don't give me low life, give me pure life, pure love for thee. And so if we share in this yearning, not love for the sake of some achievement or object, but simply for the sake of the love itself, to be in love with that which is. It transforms us utterly. Any other comments or questions from anyone? All right, dear, please go on.
Sure. Recall the incident of the meeting between Alexander the Great and a holy man of India. Alexander was impressed by this man's wisdom and wanted him to return with him to Greece. He refused. Alexander tempted him with wealth and enjoyments. The holy man refused again, saying, "What need have I of those things? The trees of the forest supply me with fruits and food. The water in the river gives me drink. The grass is my bed. The sky my room. What need have I of anything else?" When no temptation could win this man, Alexander said, "Do you know what power I have? I can force you to come with me. If you don't, I'll kill you." The holy man laughed loudly right in his face and said, "That is the greatest lie you have uttered in your life. You say you will kill me? Nothing can kill me. Fire cannot burn me. Sword cannot wound me. Water cannot wet me. Wind cannot dry me. I am the eternal spirit." Wow. Beautiful story.
This is exactly what
I love this story.
this is what Krishna tells Arjuna at the
Yes,
very beginning of the Gita.
that's right. Soul has no death. The
There is no such thing as death.
body dies.
Well, the body doesn't even die. It just is shed like an old garment.
That's right. That's what my
Worn
mom
out
always
garment.
said.
It doesn't die, it just transforms. This is, even if you transform it by cremation, or you bury it in the ground, or do whatever it is you wish to do with it. The elements of the body go back to their elemental forms and then take some new form. There's no such thing as death.
That's right.
This is the great fiction, that
Yes.
there's some kind of death. There is no death. There's only transformation. And this is right in the physics of modern physics. The second law of thermodynamics says energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed. And so the elements, the 5 elements, that make up our bodies, they will, they're compounded in such a way now, and they're compounded so cleverly that they have this amazing ability to help us create this phenomenal universe in which we live. But when it's time that when all of that energy is expended, that brought it into being, the body falls down and begins to decompose into its elements. So there's no such thing as death. Is all that perfectly clear to everyone? If it's not clear, let's make sure it gets clear. Anything at all from anyone?
You're talking about Alexander the Great. India also holds the distinction of being the country that stopped him from his conquest. They stalled him and sent him back home.
Yeah, it's true. He was not able to conquer India.
Mm-mm. That's right.
So,
Read on, Brother Shankara.
yes,
Okay. We read this as a story of ancient India, but I'm telling you of modern India. I have sat at the feet of such holy men who possessed nothing of this world, no power, no kingdom, no wealth, who possessed only one thing, and that is the bliss of God. Not only were they themselves fearless, but anyone sitting at their feet could feel that fearlessness in themselves. My master used to tell us, be fearless yourself and spread the fearlessness to others. Let none be afraid. And that is the ideal of spiritual life. What is there to fear if you can touch eternity? What is the real source of our anguish and bondage? The cause is nothing but ignorance. The tragedy is that we are not conscious of our ignorance. It is ignorance that causes fear and bondage. But what can take it away? Darkness can be removed by light. Ignorance can only be removed by knowledge. Changing the circumstances and conditions of your life will not take away fear. If you free yourself from immediate troubles, new troubles arise. What are you going to do about them? It is only when you know the reality behind this appearance, when you reach God, that you become fearless. You have to rise above this phenomenal appearance and phenomenal self. At present, our consciousness is, as it were, out of focus. If you consider yourself the body, and most of us do, then you try to keep it as you love it. However, you cannot. It is just like bidding the clouds to stay. However, you cannot. It is just like bidding the clouds to stay. But if you can reach the real self, which is not subject to surface life or death, which is not affected by the happiness or misery of the world, or by virtue or vice, which is beyond relativity, then you become grounded in a reality where fear itself fears to approach. There is a prayer in the Upanishads. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from death to immortality. Lead us from darkness to light. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, that is from that particular Upanishad. So what is ignorance? To see the world only partially. We see the events and happenings in the history of mankind and of our individual lives only partially. Partial truth is not truth at all. it is even more dangerous than falsehood. Take, for instance, a beautiful painting. Instead of looking at the whole painting, you look at one point. This world that we experience with our finite consciousness is only a part of the whole. In that part, we find all these worries, troubles, wars, changes. In our individual lives, we see only a portion of our life: chaos, misery, life, death. As long as we live within this portion, which is on the surface, there's no escape. There are those who believe they can straighten out the world and straighten out their individual lives. That's a good idea, to face the facts of life. But after you have done all that, what happens? It's not like the dog's curly tail. You straighten it out and again it curls. That is the very nature of the dog's tail. Any comments, Brother Shankara? I love that dog's tail
Well, it is
metaphor.
such an apt metaphor.
It's so true, so true.
We can,
Just no disagreement. It's
it
Swami.
is futile,
Yes,
try to change the world.
yes,
It's just exactly like the dog's tail metaphor. You uncurl it and it'll curl right back up.
that's
The
right.
only thing you can change is your internal condition. And it's not as hard as it seems when you first start the process.
Mhm.
Why? Because there's such immense help that comes. And where does it come from? As Vivekananda says, the power comes from within yourself. You are that divine being, Tattvamasi, that thou art. And the power that is there is immense. You have only to free it from the idea that it is somehow bound up and not available to you. And the only way to do this is through spiritual practice,
That's right.
coming deeper and deeper within ourselves to where we begin to be aware, really and truly aware, that we are the Atman, we are that self, we are the God we are trying to realize. And so when we surrender to that idea and make that the heart of our daily repetitive, what we rehearse, and give that our attention, things speed up and we move more quickly toward this fearlessness, this idea that there is no death, there is no loss. Things come and things go. We've lost nothing.
That's right.
The things that are necessary will come again. As Jesus pointed out, are you not greater than the birds of the air? The birds of the air are fed. Are you not more glorious than the lilies of the field? The lilies of the field are clothed. So don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear. And then he says, the Son of Man hath not where to lay his head. So don't worry about where you're going to live also. So don't worry about what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, where you're going to live. Just worry, seek ye first the kingdom of God.
Within ourselves.
And so that's what we're learning
Mhm.
as we're listening tonight. These ideas from Swami Prabhavananda about how it is for us to cease our fixation with the worldly and our fear that we're not going to get it or that we're going to lose it, and understand that we are in the midst of plenitude. that we are one without a second, that there is nothing that we are lacking, even though there may be some incidental lack in any given moment or week. Anything else from anyone about any of this?
Yeah, your quote from the Bible brought up to a question I always wondered about. How come Jesus sometimes refers to himself as the Son of Man and sometimes as the Son of God?
Well, because he says it is your need, your yearning that brought me here. I am your child, because like parents yearn for children, you yearned for me to come among you. And so I am the Son of Man. The man is my mother. Mary is my mother. The human being is my mother. And my father, as we know, his birth was a virgin birth. Mary was not impregnated by a man that gave birth to Jesus. She was impregnated by the Holy Spirit, and so gave birth to Jesus in that way. So this is why he can speak of himself as the Son of Man, the Son of Woman, the Son of Man, as well as the Son of God. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's something I always wondered about. Thanks.
You're most welcome. And I'm glad you asked the question. Anything else from anyone? Okay, how are we doing for time?
We have about 13 minutes to go.
Oh, good, wonderful.
Yeah, that's pretty
Read
good.
on then, dear. Lots of time.
Right. What makes the world appear to me as it does? When I see the world as always changing, it is my ignorance that makes me see that. How can my ignorance be removed, and who can remove it? Only I can remove it. Then all this dreaming of evil and change departs like a dream. There is a veil over our eyes, a veil over our senses. What we see and know is darkness. If that darkness is removed by illumination, we shall see what is behind the changing phenomena and behind our individual selves. The Upanishads call that Satchit Ananda, infinite existence, infinite happiness, and eternal consciousness. God can be known not merely intellectually, but directly and immediately. It's only when we come nearer, when we get a glimpse of God, that fearlessness comes into the heart. It's an actual experience that has to come. Before you attempt that, believe wholeheartedly, I can know God. In Him, we find the source of light, happiness, and freedom. If you believe that first, then there will come the urge to devote yourself to reaching that ideal. And this is the fact. If you make the attempt, you will find yourself moving toward that light. It's a fact, just as 2 + 2 makes 4. When you know the true world and the true self, then you should.
No, hold on for just a moment.
Sure, we got 4 lines and then that topic ends, Brother Shankara.
No, but I want to
Sure,
hop on this business.
sure.
The Swami, again, absolutely unqualified as a simple arithmetical formula. 2 + 2 = 4. It's just as simple and as real and as straightforward as that. So go back and read those lines again.
Yeah. Yes, I was thinking of doing that. God can be known not merely intellectually, but directly and immediately. It's only when we come nearer, when we get a glimpse of God, that fearlessness comes into the heart. It is an actual experience that has to come. Before you attempt that, believe wholeheartedly, I can know God. In Him, we find the source of light, happiness, and freedom. If you believe that first, then there will come the urge to devote yourself to reaching that idea. And this is the fact. If you make the attempt, you will find yourself moving toward that light. It is a fact, just as 2 plus 2 makes 4. When you know the true world and the true self, then you shall find there is a perfect harmony between this world and God. They are not separate. God is everywhere. When we reach that, we become free from fear. That's the end of this topic. Cast out fear.
Well, the
Practice, 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 right, Brother Shankara?
well practice, yes. We're not going to become unafraid by thinking about it.
That's right. Just
We have to actually do the spiritual practices, and that's what yields the knowledge, capital K knowledge,
Mhm.
of our internal being, of our selfness, that allows us to be unafraid. And it doesn't mean that fear goes away. It simply means that fear doesn't daunt us. The fear, the left limbic system and left cerebral system of the mind is schooled in identifying things that give us concern or fear. Well and good. That's going to happen. We don't need to listen. We can judge for ourselves. But it doesn't mean it won't happen. As Jill Bolte Taylor points out, the left limbic system and the left cerebral system, that is their function. It is their function to keep us safe. So they will identify threats in the environment. Whether or not they're real or not is not a matter of concern to us. It's just that we just look at them and say, what is my appropriate response? So we don't, we have the left limbic system and the left cerebral system, and it is part of this Stardust spacesuit. It has its function, and we pay as much heed as is auspicious and appropriate for us. So fear arises, but does not daunt us or stop us. That is fearlessness. Doesn't mean being without fear. It means not being stopped by or daunted by fear. Anything else from anyone?
Well, this particular paragraph kind of reminded me of the significance of Kali, about how she is very fearful. And, I remember reading somewhere their question, why does she look black? Her face looks black. But as closer you get to her, the more that she becomes invisible in a way.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Transparent, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of, I can understand the significance of her figure in the Vedantic.
Well, Sri Ramakrishna uses the example of
He
water.
does.
He says, if you look at the ocean, it seems to have this deep color of blue.
Blue.
You go and take a handful of the water, you see it's clear. And this is true of Kali. Kali only seems to have this fearful color of black at a distance. So we like everything else about the divine feminine, it contains all the duality. There is that fearful aspect, the terrible face of mother, as well as her most benign and loving face. And Sri Ramakrishna knew them both very well. She was, after all, his Ishta Devata, his chosen ideal. And he knew her thoroughly. As a matter of fact, one can argue that he became her. Toward the end of his life, he pointed to his body and said, there are two here, the mother, Kali, and her worship, Vishnu. He who became Rama, he who became Vishnu. He who became Rama, he who became Krishna, Vishnu. This is one of the reasons we can pay such close attention to the Master, is because he's not speaking from books or from something he heard from someone else. He's speaking from his own profound personal spiritual experience. Anything else from anyone?
Thank you. That was lovely. Thank you.
You're welcome, dear. I'm so glad you're with us. Anything else from anyone? Okay, how are we doing for time?
We have like 3 minutes. Maybe I should stop here, Brother Shankara.
I think
We're
that's a
picking,
good idea. Yeah.
we're picking up a new topic of divine incarnation next week. So
Yeah,
this will be a good stopping point.
yeah, that'll be a fascinating.
Yes, it's about 4 or 5 pages.
It's important for us to remember there's no Saturday class this week.
That's right.
Swami Prabhavananda is here, and that will take the place of the Saturday class. So Saturday and Sunday, Swami Prabhavananda. All the details of his visit are on the website or in your newsletter. So
It's a
thanks
great,
again.
it's a great topic he's going to be talking, Brother Shankara. It's about yoga and meditation.
That's
Yes,
the ticket. All right.
yes. 2 day spiritual retreat. Lynette, if you want to join us, you click on the
What?
link. 2 days. It's our time. If you're in mountain time, it's 8 o'clock for us. 8
Okay.
to 2 p.m. For Eastern time, it's 10 to 4 p.m. For us, it's 8 to 2 Pacific, 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that
As
must be Triguna.
as pleases yourself. Join
Yeah.
as pleases you. There's nothing mandatory about it.
Not at all.
All right, dears.
Thank you, Brother Shankara.
Again, as we head into the new year, may the year be successful and joyous for you. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. And may that divine being known as Mother and Father in the opening prayer for these sessions, may we know that divine being, that Mother and Father, has us securely in a loving and protective embrace. So may you be well and in bright spirits, and we'll see one another in class at least next Tuesday. If we see one another this weekend with the Swami, all the better.
Thank
Any
you.
final thought from anyone? All right, dears.
Good night, everybody.
Right to you.